We got taught like a heterosexual sex education, and I date predominantly women. So none of it was helpful. And the internet kept banging on about dental dams, and no PE teacher out there knows what a dental dam is. Condoms, STIs, interpersonal relationships.
Checkups, contraception, communication, consent.
Maybe being on, what's good? PrEP, yeah, on PrEP, yeah.
Watching out who you kiss.
Things that I can never unsee. Thanks, Mum. She's a nurse. My Birds and the Bees talk was an illustrated medical journal.
Yep. What about mental health?
Like mental sexual health. I've never thought about that.
Coming from my perspective, being like a tall male, it's like a safety for me has probably been a bit more of a given. Understand to be very different on the flip side.
I've been a professional actor for 40 years. No one ever asked me for consent, ever. It's quite a big thing for actors because it's kind of ingrained in us to say yes. Yes to everything. Why? Because we want the gig.
I didn't really understand enthusiastic consent until it was enthusiastic.
My experience with safe sex really only started when I started dating my now husband, then boyfriend. Before then, there wasn't I have not had many great experiences. Either it was lack of consent, either it was lack of understanding. All of that lead to vaginismus.
When I used to walk, the biggest fear ever that for every woman is to be raped or to be sexually assaulted, Now that I'm sitting, it's harder, so I don't have that fear all the time.
I think the biggest thing is responsibility of self, responsibility of the person that you might be having, sexual activities or you might be playing with.
The evangelical Christians got me for a couple of years in my teen years.
As a Gen Z person, I have had a lot of my sex education online and from my peers, and it is very stigmatized and heteronormative.
As I think growing up, part of the sexual dynamic of a lot of queer men is that sex is kind of unsafe and it's sort of on the edge, on the precipice of feeling a bit dubious. I think a lot of us grew up that way. If you don't educate people on safe sex, they will find their own way to have sex in the way that they want to. You hear more about consent within a heterosexual space.
My parents were very uncomfortable to talk about it, and they gave me a book to read when I was 15, and it was very outdated. I feel like the fact that, sex is such a taboo topic has made it very, I feel like my sexual revolution and figuring myself out happened very late in life because of that.
I'm just thinking back to Boys High and the lack of any kind of narrative around consent. You see the occasional example of a guy stepping in and be like, no man, that's not cool. But I feel like you don't see that enough.
I really hate when people be like, I got an STI check, I'm clean, with the implication that anyone who tested positive for anything is dirty. Maybe we shouldn't, you bad, you good.
For some reason it feels better to be like, if I ignore this thing, it doesn't exist. If I get chlamydia, it's game over. And it's you just take antibiotics for 2 weeks and you're good.
People go to the pharmacy or sometimes the supermarket to get a cream, and they just they whisper what they need.
Concept of disclosure. That's a tricky one. If you're going into a sex party, I know this is a niche example, but niche example here. But if you're going into a sex party, you're already signing up. You're already gonna get exposed. The reality is most of us have it. It's okay. Disclosure and the rules around how we're supposed to react, the weight and the shame that came with that. We just gotta really, really stop that.
Having that ability just to share openly one-on-one is something that I didn't really think was possible growing up, but now I feel in the last year or so, it feels more comfortable to do that.
I started sex work in my early 20s, so I've been surrounded by a lot of people who take it seriously and it's not stigmatized.
I'm kind of like a walking safe space. If my spider senses are tingling, I am out of there so fast. And if it's not giving, then I'm going. Yeah.
You have to give us an example of the spider tingling.
Oh, yeah, girl. When you're walking in and then you got two men shooting drugs up in the lounge. You just... oh shit, I better get out of here. At any point, it is never too late for me to say no.
Generally, before I like to jump into a sexual relationship with someone, it's having those discussions around what their previous sexual relationship was like. When I'm having sexual relationships with women and what things, may cause issue for them, it may trigger them.
Dating queer people means you're often dating people who have a lot of trauma. You're dealing with the aftermath is how can you be a trauma-informed partner to the people you're either dating or sleeping with.
What made me feel safe sexually was going
During
to therapy. You can process all of the emotions. It's become normalized conversation. The number one tip is therapy, and therapy should be free.
The Me Too movement made it possible for me to talk to other women about it with that terrible confidence that comes with knowing we've all got a story, which makes me really sad, but it also means that I know that you can talk to other people about it.
Everyone's going through the same things probably, but everyone's afraid to talk about it. Everyone's like, oh shit, it's just me. And it's like, well, it's not just you, it's probably a lot of people. And if you speak to people about your experiences and they're like, oh, I've actually also been going through this and I've been going through this for a while, and perhaps here's some advice, or let's just talk about it. And then everyone just feels better.
We assume that I'm safe means nothing bad will ever happen to me. That's not what safety is. It's actually how we react to those things.
Uni in Hamilton, we go clubbing, the girls would have a signal that would be like, rescue me. And it was always because a guy would go up and just start like grinding on them and dancing with them. So my rescue would be to go up behind that guy and start grinding on him and dancing with him, and they'd turn around and do the like, oh shit, and suddenly they know all about consent.